Max Verstappen just did something no one expected. Day 1. New car. New engine. And 65 laps later, he broke the silence in the paddock. The numbers? Insane. The reaction? Total disbelief. Even Ferrari's Laurent Mekies could not find words. Because what happened in Bahrain this morning might have just decided the first 3 races of the season. And no one is ready for what's coming next. Subscribe now. Because the truth behind Verstappen's pace is a lot darker than you think. Max did not top the timesheets by chance. Red Bull didn't get lucky. This was cold, calculated, and precise. Verstappen ran 65 laps. But never once did the RB22 flinch. No oversteer. No lockups. No sudden corrections on throttle. And that tells us something critical. The car is not just fast. It is stable. And in preseason testing, that is more valuable than outright speed. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Red Bull let Max drive the entire day. Morning and afternoon. That is not normal. Most teams split the workload. Protect the engine. Collect data from both drivers. But Red Bull didn't split anything. They handed the full program to Verstappen. Why? Because they trust him. Because they trust the car. And because they might be hiding something big. Teams only run full-day sessions with one driver. When they know the platform is ready. When they believe they can push. And when they want one mind to extract every micro detail from a car that could define the first half of the season. But that is just the beginning. Because Verstappen's fastest lap? It did not come in a low-fuel glory run. It was set mid-program, with grip rising, traffic building, and yet, 135.4. Clean, smooth, unbeatable. Even Oscar Piastri, even George Russell, could not touch it. Now ask yourself, what does it mean when a car can go fastest without even trying to be fast? Because if this was Red Bull's safe mode, we need to ask, what happens when they take the gloves off? There is something teams hate more than being slow, being caught off guard. And on day 1 in Bahrain, that is exactly what Red Bull did to the rest of the grid. Because while everyone was watching the stopwatch, they missed what was actually happening under the surface. The RB22? It was not running with the Barcelona spec. This was a different machine. Multiple reports suggest Red Bull rushed a Bahrain-specific upgrade after losing data in an earlier incident. They were not just testing. They were compensating, adapting, upgrading on the fly. And what they brought might be the real RB22. Smart cooling systems, a revised floor, modified side pods. No confirmation, no press release. But the signs were everywhere. New airflow patterns spotted on slow-motion footage. Reworked bodywork seams. And Verstappen's unusual level of confidence? Right from the first lap. This was not a shakedown. This was a rollout. And here's where it gets even more dangerous. If this was the first version of the upgrade, that means there is more coming. And that would explain why Red Bull committed Max to a full day. They were not just collecting data. They were validating design. Testing how deep they can push before the car starts to fight back. And the scary part? It never did. No reliability concerns. No cooling issues. No balance shifts. Just clean, uninterrupted runs. In rising heat. On a green track. With brand new aero. Now imagine what happens when they start optimizing for performance. Because today was not about speed. It was about control. And Red Bull just proved they have more control than anyone else right now. But what if I told you the engine is the real wild card? This is the first time in Red Bull's history that they are powering their own car. No more Honda. No more borrowed reliability. This is Red Bull powertrains, with Ford backing the project. And from a distance, that sounds impressive. But inside the paddock, people are nervous. Because building your own engine is like walking a tightrope over fire. Even the smallest mistake, and everything burns. So how did it go today? Shockingly, flawlessly. No smoke. No sudden stops. No red flags. Just pure, consistent mileage. Lap after lap. In hot conditions. In a car that had never faced a full race simulation. And that tells us something. It tells us that Red Bull's biggest gamble might already be paying off. But do not celebrate too fast. Because reliability is not binary. It is not works or fails. It is fragile, hidden, deceptive. Today's data means one thing. The engine handled day 1. But tomorrow? The energy recovery system will be stressed harder. The cooling system will be exposed to longer runs. And any glitch in calibration, any unexpected heat spike, can bring everything crashing down. That is why Christian Horner is playing it safe in the media. He says they are not assuming anything. But internally, Helmut Marko is already dropping hints. He says they are within range. He believes there is no significant disadvantage. That contradiction? It is classic Red Bull. Under-promise, over-deliver. And today, they over-delivered. Because no one expected their first full engine build to run clean on day one with that kind of pace. But if this motor holds across all 3 days, the grid has a much bigger problem than just Verstappen. They have a team that can now build the entire car? Top to bottom, in-house, chassis, aero, powertrain. And if they get it right, there is no more weak link. But here is the twist most people missed. It is not just the car, or the engine, or the pace. It is how Verstappen is driving. Because his body language on track today told a very different story. From the very first out lap, you could see it. No hesitation. No installation phase. No tiptoeing around the grip. Max attacked immediately. No overcorrection. No complaints on the radio. Just laps. Consistent. Clean. Fast. And that is not normal for a car this new. In a regulation reset like 2026, most teams expect problems. You brace for weird behavior. Unexpected balance swings. Random sensor issues. But Verstappen drove as if he already knew the car. As if the RB22 had been built exactly to his touch. And that tells us something deeper. This was not just a car test. This was a validation of vision. Because Red Bull designed this machine with one person in mind. They did not build a car for both drivers to adapt. They built a car around Max, around his driving style, around his preferences in rotation, traction, brake feel, and throttle modulation. And today, it clicked. Not eventually. Not halfway through the run. On lap 1. And that is terrifying. Because when a car and a driver connect like that, on the first day, it usually takes the rest of the grid weeks to catch up. And sometimes, they never do. But here is what most fans will miss. It is not about being the fastest. It is about how effortlessly he was fast. No risk. No pushing over the limit. Just flow. And when Max finds that rhythm, this early in the season, we usually see one thing happen. He becomes untouchable. And if this is already happening, on day 1 of testing, the rest of the field should be very, very concerned. But here is the final twist. Red Bull did all of this while keeping one card hidden. Because there's one detail no one has been able to confirm. And if the rumors are true, it changes the entire game. Inside the paddock, there is a quiet rumor. Not loud, not official, but spreading fast. Some are calling it a B-spec. Others say it is just a stage 2 package. But the theory is the same. Red Bull did not bring everything to day 1. They brought enough to dominate the headlines without revealing the full hand. And it makes perfect sense. In a season with brand new regulations, the smartest teams do not show everything at once. They hide upgrades, stagger them, sandbag just enough to leave rivals guessing. And if the RB22 was already running, with upgraded floor geometry, adjusted cooling architecture, and possible side pod redesigns, then the real question is, what is still in the pipeline? Because here is the catch. All the signs point to development already being weeks ahead of schedule. Verstappen's clean laps, the lack of red flags, the absence of understeer. That does not happen by accident. That happens when a team already tested something before anyone knew. And if they accelerated their upgrade plan to recover lost time, like some technical sources suggest, then we might not be looking at the RB22 version 1. We might be looking at RB22 version 1.5, a hybrid of original concept and upgraded execution, rushed, refined, and ready before the lights even go out in Bahrain. And that opens a dangerous possibility. If the current car is already ahead, then the next evolution could be untouchable. Because remember, Bahrain is not the target. Red Bull builds to dominate. Not just opening day, but opening months. They plan for stretches, momentum, psychological warfare. And this move? It sets the tone. Because if other teams burn their upgrades trying to catch up to what Red Bull ran on day 1, they will have nothing left when Red Bull unleashes the real package. And that's how you win championships. Before the season even starts. Not with fireworks. Not with glory laps. But with precision. With patience. And with silence. But if you think this is just about car design, You are missing the most important piece, because in the final block, we reveal what this really means for the entire grid, and why Verstappen's quiet dominance today might have just rewritten the start of the season. Max Verstappen didn't need to speak. His driving spoke for him. No media hype, no dramatic radio messages, just data. Cold, clean, unforgiving. 65 laps. Fastest time of the day. Zero mechanical issues. Zero setup resets. Zero signs of discomfort. And the implications are massive. Because this is not just Red Bull getting it right. This is Red Bull building something that works on day one of a brand new regulation era. That is almost unheard of. Most teams stumble. They crawl through data. They get confused by simulations. They fight with the unknowns. But Red Bull? They came out swinging. And now, everyone else is reacting. Ferrari engineers were spotted deep in debriefs. Longer than expected. Mercedes shifted run plans. Mid-session. Even McLaren, who had a strong showing with Piastri, avoided direct comparisons. Because they all know, this car, this driver, this team, is already ahead. And in a sport like Formula One, where development curves are exponential, a head start of even 1 week can become an insurmountable lead by race 3. But here is the final, brutal truth. Red Bull did all of this without showing their true pace. They still have power modes hidden, fuel loads undisclosed, upgrades unrevealed, and most of all, they have Max Verstappen, fully locked in, with a car built around him, ready to extract perfection every single weekend. So what comes next? Panic in the midfield. Risky experiments from the top teams. Overreactions in setup choices. And desperate upgrades. Rushed through wind tunnels that were never meant to be tested this early. Because when one team nails the base, this early in the game, they do not just gain speed. They gain clarity. And clarity is the most dangerous weapon any team can have. So now the question is not, who will catch Red Bull? The question is, who will even understand what just happened today? Because if the rest of the grid fails to realize the scale of this performance, they won't just lose the first race, they will lose the season before it even starts.